My daughter-in-law announced at Thanksgiving, "Your late husband signed the house to us, you get nothing." Those words still echo in my head, even now. The way she said them, the timing, the cruelty of it. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me back up just a little, so you understand how that moment felt when it happened. I never thought grief could make a room feel this small. There were 11 of us around the table that Thanksgiving afternoon. The turkey sat golden in the center, steam still rising from the mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce glistening in the good china bowls. Henry and I bought on our 30th anniversary. Everything looked perfect. Warm, the way he would have wanted it. But the air felt tight, like someone had sealed all the windows. My son Eric was carving the turkey, his hands moving slow and careful. Too careful. The kids were chattering about school, about friends, about things that should have made me smile. My niece sat beside me, squeezing my hand under the table every few minutes. She knew this was hard. First holiday without Henry. First time sitting at this table without seeing his face at the other end. I was trying to keep my hands from shaking, trying to remember his voice saying grace, trying to make it through one meal without crying into the gravy. Then Caroline set her fork down. The sound cut through the room like glass breaking on tile. Everyone stopped. Even the kids went quiet. She straightened her back, smoothed her napkin across her lap, and looked directly at me. Her expression was calm, practiced, like she had been rehearsing this moment in front of a mirror for weeks. My heart started pounding before she even opened her mouth. Before we go any further, let me ask you something. With Thanksgiving just around the corner, how are your plans coming along? Are you hosting this year? Or are you heading to family? Where are you watching this from right now? And what time is it where you are? I would love to know. Drop a comment and tell me about your Thanksgiving plans. Let me know your city, your country, what time of day you pressed play on this story. And if this is resonating with you, if you can feel what I felt in that moment, please hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you do not miss what happens next. Because what I am about to tell you changed everything. Now, back to that table. Caroline tilted her head, and her lips curled into something that was not quite a smile. "As of yesterday," she said, her voice steady and sharp, "the house no longer belongs to you." Time stopped. I heard my niece inhale sharply beside me. One of the kids dropped a fork. It clattered onto the plate, loud in the silence. Eric froze mid-slice, the knife still pressed into the turkey breast, his face going pale as the tablecloth. Caroline was not finished. "Your late husband signed it over to us," she continued, louder now, like she wanted to make sure everyone heard. "You get nothing." My grandson gasped. My niece set her glass down so hard the water splashed onto the linen. Someone whispered something I could not make out. The room had turned into a photograph, everyone frozen in place, staring at Caroline like she had just announced the world was ending. And maybe, in a way, she thought she had. I felt my hands go cold, not shaking, just cold. Like all the blood had drained straight out of my fingertips. But my heart, strange as it sounds, went calm, quiet, steady. I set my fork down gently beside my plate, folded my napkin, looked her straight in the eyes. "Should I tell them?" I said, my voice soft but clear, "or will you?" Her smile froze. Just froze. Right there on her face, like someone had paused her mid-thought. Eric whispered from across the table, his voice cracking. "Mom, please don't." Caroline blinked. Once. Twice. Her confidence flickered for just a second, and I saw something behind her eyes I had not seen before. Panic. Just a flash of it. But it was there. She recovered fast, straightening her shoulders, lifting her chin. "Tell them what?" she snapped, her voice sharper now. Defensive. The table stayed frozen. My niece was staring at me, wide-eyed. The kids looked confused. Eric had his head in his hands, elbows on the table, looking like he wanted to disappear into the floor. I did not move. Did not flinch. Just held Caroline's gaze. That moment, right there, that single breath between her question and my answer, felt like it stretched out forever. Like the whole room was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. But to understand how we got here, to understand what I was about to say and why it mattered so much, the story has to go back, way back, to 8 months earlier, to the day Henry died, to the moment Caroline started circling this house like a hawk, because this was not about a piece of paper or a signature or a legal document. This was about a woman who thought grief made me weak, who thought losing my husband made me easy to control, who thought she could walk into my home, the home Henry built with his own 2 hands, and take it while I was still crying into his empty pillow at night. She thought wrong. And at that Thanksgiving table, surrounded by family who had no idea what was coming, I was about to prove it. But first, you need to know how it started. How the lies began. How I almost believed her. How close I came to losing everything. So let me take you back. Back to the funeral. Back to the folder. Back to the moment I realized my daughter-in-law was not here to help me grieve. She was here to take what was mine. 8 months before that Thanksgiving table turned into a battlefield, I was just trying to breathe. Henry died on a Tuesday morning in March. The kind of morning where the light comes through the kitchen windows soft and gentle, the way he always loved. He went peacefully, they told me at the hospital, in his sleep, no pain, just there one moment, gone the next. I nodded when they said it, like I understood. But I did not understand. I still do not understand how someone can be your whole world for 47 years, and then just vanish. The funeral was a blur. People I had not seen in decades showed up with casseroles and sympathy cards. Neighbors brought flowers, the house filled with voices and condolences, and the smell of lilies, which I have hated ever since. Everyone meant well, I know they did, but all I wanted was for them to leave, so I could sit in the silence Henry left behind. When they finally did leave, when the last guest walked out the door and the house went quiet, that is when it hit me. He was everywhere. His reading glasses were still on the coffee table, folded on top of the newspaper he never got to finish. His coffee mug sat in the sink, the one with the chipped handle that he refused to throw away. His jacket hung by the front door. His slippers waited at the foot of the bed. The house was not just a house. It was 47 years of mornings and evenings and little routines we built together without even realizing we were building anything. It was the place where we raised Eric, where we celebrated birthdays and anniversaries, where we sat on the porch every summer evening and talked about nothing and everything. Henry built parts of this house with his own hands. The back porch where we drank our morning coffee. The garden beds where I still grow tomatoes every year. The bookshelf in the living room that holds every novel we ever read together. This was not just my home. It was us. And now it was just me. The first week after the funeral, I barely left the bedroom. I could not look at his side of the bed without crying. Could not walk past his office without expecting to hear him humming while he paid bills. Could not cook dinner without setting 2 plates on the table out of habit. Grief is strange that way. It does not arrive all at once. It comes in waves. Some days I felt fine, almost normal. Other days I could not get out of bed. Eric called every day that first week. Sweet boy. He always was. Even as a grown man with kids of his own, he still checked on his mother, asked if I needed anything, offered to come by and help with paperwork or bills or whatever needed doing. I told him I was fine. I was not fine. But what mother wants to burden her son with her sadness? Then, about 10 days after the funeral, Eric showed up at the door with Caroline. I was in my bathrobe, hair unwashed, eyes swollen from another sleepless night. I looked terrible, and I knew it. But they were family. They had seen me at my worst before. Caroline smiled when I opened the door, but it was not her usual smile. It was too wide, too bright. The kind of smile people wear when they are trying to appear helpful but really just want something. "We came to check on you," she said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "And we brought some things to help you get organized." Organized. That word stuck with me. Eric followed behind her carrying a small box. He looked tired. Guilty, almost. He kissed my cheek and set the box on the kitchen counter without saying much. Caroline walked through the living room like she was inspecting it. Her eyes moved from the furniture to the walls to the windows, taking everything in with a strange kind of focus, like she was measuring something. "This house is so big for just one person," she said, running her finger along the back of the sofa. "You must feel so lonely here." I did feel lonely, but hearing her say it out loud felt intrusive, like she was pointing out a wound I was trying to keep covered. Eric sat down at the table, rubbing his face with both hands. He looked like he had not slept much either. "Mom," he said quietly, "we know this is hard. We just want to help." Caroline opened the box she had brought and started pulling out folders. Papers. Documents I had never seen before. "We talked to the estate lawyer," she said, spreading the papers across the table like she was setting up a presentation. "There are some things we need to go over. Papers Henry signed. Plans he made." Plans. Another word that felt wrong. I sat down slowly, pulling my robe tighter around me. My head felt foggy. I had barely eaten in days, barely slept. And now Caroline was talking about plans and papers and things I could not focus on. She pointed to a document at the top of the pile. "This is about the house," she said. "Henry wanted to make sure Eric was taken care of. He signed some things to make the transition easier." Transition. That word hit me like cold water. "What transition?" I asked. Eric would not look at me. He just stared at the table, jaw tight. Caroline kept smiling. "Just standard estate planning. Nothing to worry about right now. We just wanted you to be aware." But I was not aware. I was confused. Henry and I made decisions together. Always. We had a will, we had plans, and none of them involved Eric taking the house while I was still living in it. I wanted to ask more questions, but my brain felt like it was moving through mud. Everything was too heavy, too much. Caroline gathered the papers back into the folder and stood up. "We will come back in a few days and go over everything properly," she said. "For now, just rest. Let us handle the hard stuff." She squeezed my shoulder as she walked past, and it felt more like a claim than comfort. Eric hugged me on his way out, whispered, "I love you, Mom." But he did not say anything else. Did not explain the papers. Did not tell me what Caroline was really talking about. After they left, I sat at that table for an hour, staring at the spot where the folder had been. Something felt wrong. I could not name it yet. Could not put my finger on what exactly did not sit right. But deep in my chest, in that place where instinct lives, I felt it. At the time, I thought it was just grief making me paranoid, making me see problems that were not really there. But I was wrong. At the time, I did not realize Caroline had already begun lining up her steps. Slowly, carefully, preparing to take everything while I was too heartbroken to notice. 3 days later, they came back. I was in the kitchen when I heard the knock. Not a gentle knock either. The kind that says someone is already planning to come inside whether you answer or not. Caroline did not wait for me to reach the door. I heard it open, heard her heels clicking across the hardwood floor, heard her voice calling out like this was her house and not mine. "Maggie, we're here. Hope you don't mind." The door was unlocked. The door was not unlocked. I locked it every night before bed. But I did not have the energy to argue. Eric appeared in the kitchen doorway first, looking apologetic in that quiet way of his. He was carrying the same box from before, only now it looked heavier, fuller. "Hey, Mom," he said softly. "How are you feeling?" I wanted to tell him I felt like my chest had a hole in it, that I woke up every morning forgetting Henry was gone, and then remembered all over again, that the silence in this house was so loud it kept me awake at night. But I just said, "I'm managing." Caroline swept in behind him, already pulling out a chair at the kitchen table like she owned the place. She set her purse down, smoothed her blouse, and gestured for Eric to bring the box over. "We really need to go through these papers today," she said, not looking at me. "The lawyer said time is important with estate transfers." There was that word again. Transfer. Eric set the box on the table and started pulling out folders. Not just one this time. Several. Each one thick with documents, tabs sticking out the sides, sticky notes marking pages. I sat down slowly, feeling that familiar fog creeping back into my head. I had not been sleeping, had barely been eating. The doctor said it was normal for widows, that grief does things to the body. But sitting there, looking at all those papers, I wished I felt sharper, more awake. Caroline opened the first folder with a kind of confidence that made my stomach tighten. She slid a document across the table toward me, pointing at the top with one perfectly manicured finger. "This is the transfer request," she said. "Henry filed it about 6 months before he passed. It transfers ownership of the property to Eric." I stared at the paper, the words blurred together. Property. Ownership. Transfer. Legal jargon I did not understand. He never mentioned this to me. I said quietly. Caroline tilted her head, her expression softening in a way that felt rehearsed. I know, sweetie, he probably didn't want to worry you. You know how men are. They think they're protecting us by keeping things to themselves. But Henry was not like that. We talked about everything. Our finances, our wills, our plans for when one of us was gone. He would not have made a decision this big without telling me. Can I see the signature? I asked. Eric shifted in his chair, rubbing the back of his neck. He still had not looked me in the eye. Caroline flipped to the last page and pointed. There at the bottom was a signature. Henry's name, written in black ink. Except something about it looked wrong. I had seen Henry's signature thousands of times. On birthday cards, on checks, on our mortgage papers, on the Valentine he gave me the year before he died. I knew the way he looped his H, the way his Y always slanted to the right. This signature was close, but it was not exact. When did he sign this? I asked. Last September, Caroline said without hesitation. He came into the lawyer's office while you were visiting your sister in Florida. Remember that trip? I did remember that trip. I had gone to help my sister after her surgery. I was gone for 2 weeks. But something about the timeline felt off. I could not place it yet, but it nagged at me. Caroline kept talking, pulling out more papers. And this one is the updated deed. Once it's processed, the house officially transfers to Eric. It's cleaner this way. Less complicated for taxes and inheritance. Eric finally spoke. His voice strained. Mom, we're not trying to rush you out or anything. You can stay here as long as you need. That's not what this is about. But if that was true, why did it feel like they were already measuring the rooms for new furniture? Caroline pulled out another document. This form just needs your signature acknowledging the transfer. It's a formality, really, but the lawyer said we need it to move forward. She slid a pen across the table toward me. Everything in my body screamed not to touch it. I need to read through all of this first, I said. Caroline's smile tightened, just barely. Of course. Take your time, but the lawyer did mention there's a deadline, something about estate taxes and probate. If we miss the window, it gets complicated, expensive. She said it like she was doing me a favor. Like signing away my home was somehow helping me. I pulled the folder closer and started reading, or trying to read. The words swam on the page. Legal terms I did not recognize. Dates that did not quite line up, references to meetings I had no memory of. And then I saw it. One of the forms was dated October 12th. Henry had been in the hospital that entire week. Pneumonia. I stayed by his bedside every single day. He could barely hold a pen to sign the hospital admission forms, let alone legal documents. I set the paper down carefully, keeping my face neutral. I'd like to talk to the lawyer myself, I said. Caroline's smile faltered. Just for a second. But I saw it. The lawyer's out of town, she said quickly. He'll be back next week. We can all meet with him then if you want. What's his name? I asked. Eric finally looked up. James Abbott, same guy you and Dad always used. That part was true. James had handled our wills, our taxes, all our legal matters for over 20 years. If Henry really had signed these papers, James would have been involved. But James would have called me, would have made sure I understood. Would have asked questions, unless he did not know these papers existed. Caroline stood up, gathering the folders back into the box. We'll leave these with you so you can review them. Just let us know when you're ready to sign. She said it like it was inevitable, like my signature was just a matter of time. Eric hugged me before they left and I held on to him a little longer than usual. My boy. My sweet boy who used to tell me everything, who used to come to me when something was bothering him. Now he could not even look me in the eye. After they left, I sat at that table for a long time, staring at the box. Something was very, very wrong. The dates did not match. The signature looked off. And the way Caroline talked about the house, the way she called it the property like it was already hers, like I was just a tenant waiting to be evicted. For the first time since Henry died, I felt something other than grief. I felt anger. And underneath that anger, something sharper. Something that told me to pay attention. To stop letting the fog of sadness cloud my judgment. Henry's voice echoed in my head, something he used to say when I was worried about a decision. Trust your gut, Maggie. It knows things your brain hasn't figured out yet. My gut was screaming. and I was finally ready to listen. The visit started small. 2 days after they left the box of papers, Caroline showed up at my door with coffee and pastries from the bakery downtown. The good kind, the ones Henry used to bring home on Sunday mornings. I was in the neighborhood, she said, breezing past me into the kitchen. Thought you might need some company. I did not need company. I needed space to think, to figure out what those papers really meant. But I let her in, because that is what you do. You let family in. She set the pastries on the counter and started opening cabinets like she was looking for something. Where do you keep your good plates these days? Same place they've always been, I said. She found them, served the pastries, poured the coffee, and sat down at the table like we were about to have a lovely chat, but her eyes kept wandering. To the living room, to the hallway, to the windows overlooking the backyard. This house really is too much for one person, she said, taking a sip of her coffee. All these rooms, all this upkeep, the yard alone must be exhausting. I manage, I said, but do you want to manage? She leaned forward, her voice dripping with concern. Maggie, I'm worried about you. You're here all alone, surrounded by memories. Maybe it would be healthier to start fresh somewhere smaller. Somewhere without all this weight. There was that word, fresh, like my entire life with Henry was something I needed to wash off and start over. I like my memories, I said quietly. She smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. Of course you do. I just think you deserve to live somewhere that feels lighter, more manageable. Have you thought about those nice senior communities? Some of them are really beautiful. Lots of activities, people your age. People my age, like I was too old to live in my own home. I changed the subject, but Caroline did not stay much longer. She finished her coffee, gathered her purse, and kissed my cheek on the way out. Think about what I said, she told me. Sometimes the best way to honor the past is to let it go. After she left, I threw the rest of the pastries in the trash. The next week, she came by 3 more times, once to help me sort through Henry's clothes, which I had not asked for help with. Once to check on the furnace, even though it was working perfectly fine. And once to see if I needed anything from the store, which turned into another lecture about downsizing. Each visit, her tone shifted, less gentle, more insistent. You really should consider selling, she said during the furnace visit. The market's good right now. You could make a nice profit and move somewhere easier. I'm not selling, I said. But eventually you'll have to, she pressed. I mean, when the transfer goes through, it would just make sense. When? Not if, when, like it was already decided. Eric started showing up with her, but he barely spoke, just stood there looking uncomfortable, while Caroline walked through my home pointing out things that needed fixing, things that were outdated, things that would be so much work for someone my age. One afternoon, I was sitting on the back porch with my tea when I heard voices in the yard. I walked around the side of the house and found Caroline talking to a man in a work shirt. He was holding a clipboard, looking at the roof, taking notes. What's going on? I asked. Caroline turned, not even startled. Oh, I called a contractor to get an estimate on some repairs, just being proactive. If Eric's going to take over the property, we need to know what needs fixing. I didn't ask for an estimate, I said. I know, but I figured it would save you the trouble. She smiled. Consider it a favor. The contractor looked between us, clearly uncomfortable. Ma'am, do you want me to do this assessment or not? Not, I said firmly. Please leave. He left. Caroline stayed. You're being unreasonable, she said, her voice cooling. I'm trying to help you. We're trying to help you, but you're making this so much harder than it needs to be. Making what harder? I asked. The transition, she said like I was a child who needed simple words. Maggie, the papers are already filed. The transfer is happening whether you cooperate or not. I'm just trying to make it easier on everyone. That was the first time she said it out loud, that she thought the house was already theirs. I felt something crack inside me. Not grief this time. Something sharper. Get off my property, I said. Her eyes widened. Excuse me? You heard me. Leave. She opened her mouth to argue, but something in my face must have stopped her. She grabbed her purse and walked to her car without another word. Eric called 20 minutes later. Mom, what happened? Caroline's upset. She had a contractor in my yard without asking me. He sighed, long and heavy. She's just trying to help. Is she Eric? Or is she trying to push me out of my own home? Silence on the other end. Eric, tell me the truth. Did your father really sign those papers? More silence. Then quietly, I don't know, Mom. Caroline said he did. She showed me the documents. But did you talk to James? Did you verify any of it? Caroline handled all of that. She said it was easier if she coordinated everything. My chest tightened. Eric, you're my son. I need you to be honest with me. Do you believe her? The pause that followed told me everything. I don't know what to believe anymore, he whispered. She's my wife. You're my mother. I'm stuck in the middle and I don't know what's true. After we hung up, I went to my bedroom and pulled out the journal I had been keeping. Pages and pages of dates, times, things Caroline said, contradictions I had noticed. I was not imagining this. I was not being paranoid. Caroline was circling my home like a predator, and every visit, every suggestion, every contractor she called was another step toward pushing me out. But I was done being pushed. I picked up the phone and called James Abbott's office. His assistant answered. Abbott Legal, how can I help you? This is Maggie, I said, my voice steadier than it had been in weeks. I need to speak with James as soon as he's back in town. It's urgent. He'll be back next week? I'll have him call you first thing. Thank you, I said. After I hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed staring at that journal. The fog was lifting. The grief was still there, heavy and constant. But underneath it now, something else was growing. Clarity. And with clarity came the understanding that I was not going to let this happen. Not to me. Not to the home Henry built. Not to the life we made together. Caroline thought grief made me weak. She was about to learn how wrong she was. James was supposed to call me back within the week, but before he could, someone else showed up at my door. It was a Thursday afternoon, unseasonably warm for April. I was in the garden, pulling weeds from the flower beds Henry had built the summer before he died. Working with my hands helped, kept my mind from wandering to dark places. I heard a car pull into the driveway, but did not think much of it. Probably a delivery. Maybe a neighbor stopping by with more unwanted casseroles. Then came the knock. When I opened the door, a man in a gray suit stood on my porch holding a leather portfolio and a camera. He was young, maybe 30, with the kind of polite smile people wear when they are about to ask you for something. Good afternoon, he said. Are you Margaret? No one called me Margaret except doctors and bill collectors. Who's asking? I said. He pulled a business card from his pocket and handed it to me. Ryan Chen, property assessor with Summit Realty Services. Your daughter-in-law scheduled an appointment for me to evaluate the property today. My stomach dropped. I didn't schedule anything, I said. He looked confused, glancing down at his tablet. It says here, Caroline. Let me check the last name. Caroline requested a full property assessment for potential sale or transfer. She said you were expecting me. I was not expecting him. I had no idea he was coming. But Caroline did. Caroline planned this. For a moment, I considered slamming the door in his face, telling him to leave and never come back. But something stopped me. Some instinct that told me to let this play out, to see exactly what Caroline was doing behind my back. Come in, I said, stepping aside. He looked relieved. Thank you. This should only take about an hour. I'll need to photograph the interior, measure the rooms, check structural elements, that sort of thing. I followed him through the house, watching as he took notes on everything. The square footage, the condition of the floors, the age of the appliances. He opened closets, checked windows, tested faucets. Beautiful home, he said as he measured the living room. Great bones. Properties like this don't come on the market often. It's not on the market, I said. He paused, stylus hovering over his tablet. Oh, I was told this was for a listing preparation. You were told wrong. He shifted uncomfortably. Well, your daughter-in-law was very specific. She said the transfer was already in process and she needed the assessment for valuation purposes. Transfer. Valuation. Words that made my skin crawl. Did she say when this transfer was happening? I asked, keeping my voice calm. She mentioned it was a family estate matter, that the property would be moving to the next generation soon. He smiled apologetically. I handle a lot of these situations. It's actually quite common after a spouse passes. I wanted to scream that my husband had only been gone 2 months, that the ground on his grave had barely settled, that this house was not moving anywhere. But I just nodded and let him continue. He went upstairs, photographed the bedrooms, measured the bathrooms. I heard him walking around Henry's office, the room I had not been able to bring myself to clean out yet. His books were still on the shelves. His reading glasses still on the desk. His coffee mug, washed but not put away, still sitting on the windowsill. When the assessor came back downstairs, he was making final notes. "Everything looks good," he said. "I'll have the full report ready by early next week. Should I send it to you or directly to Caroline?" "Send it to me," I said firmly. "This is my house." He nodded, sensing the tension but not understanding it. "Of course, I'll email you a copy." He handed me another business card. "If you have any questions, feel free to call. And if you do decide to list, I can connect you with some excellent agents in the area." "I'm not listing," I said. After he left, I stood in the empty living room, my hands shaking. Caroline had scheduled a property assessor. Without asking me, without telling me, she was moving forward like the house already belonged to her. Like I was just some obstacle to work around. I called Eric immediately. He answered on the third ring. "Hey Mom, did you know Caroline sent a property assessor to my house today?" Silence. "Eric, did you know?" "She mentioned something about getting an assessment," he said quietly. "I didn't think she'd actually do it without telling you." "Well, she did. He was here for an hour, taking pictures, measuring rooms, talking about listings and valuations." "Mom, I'm sorry. I'll talk to her." "Talking to her isn't working, Eric. She's acting like this house is already hers. Like I have no say in any of this." He sighed, and I could hear the exhaustion in it. "She's just trying to be prepared." "Prepared for what? For me to die? For me to just hand over everything Henry and I built?" "That's not what she means." "Then what does she mean, Eric? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like she's trying to push me out of my own home while I'm still grieving your father." The line went quiet for a long moment. "I don't know what to tell you, Mom," he finally said. "I'm caught in the middle here. You're my mother. She's my wife. I don't know how to make everyone happy." "I'm not asking you to make everyone happy," I said, my voice breaking. "I'm asking you to tell me the truth. Did your father really sign those papers, or is Caroline lying?" Another long pause. "I want to believe her," he whispered, "but honestly, I don't know anymore." After we hung up, I sat on the couch and cried. Not the soft, quiet crying I had been doing since Henry died. This was different, harder, angrier. Because for the first time, I realized I was not just fighting grief. I was fighting for my home. And Caroline was not going to stop. Every visit, every contractor, every assessor was another piece of her plan. She was building something, step by step, that would eventually push me out entirely. I thought about calling James again, demanding that he see me immediately, but his assistant said he would not be back until next week. And even then, what could he do? Caroline had papers. She had documents with Henry's name on them. She had a story that sounded believable to everyone except me. I picked up the assessor's business card and stared at it. Summit Realty Services, Ryan Chen, property assessor. Then I flipped it over and wrote the date and time on the back. Added it to the journal I had been keeping. More evidence. More proof that Caroline was moving forward, whether I agreed or not. The sun was setting outside, casting long shadows through the living room windows. The house felt bigger somehow, emptier. Henry used to say, "Home is where you breathe easy, Maggie." But ever since he was gone, breathing in this house felt harder. And now, with Caroline circling like a vulture, it felt impossible. I walked through each room slowly, touching the walls Henry had painted, the floors he had refinished, the shelves he had built. This was not just a house. This was 47 years of love and work and memories. And I was not giving it up. Not to Caroline. Not to anyone. But for the first time since this all started, fear felt real. Because I did not know how to fight someone who was supposed to be family. Someone who had the law on her side, or at least claimed to. Someone who was patient enough to wait for me to be weak, vulnerable, too grief-stricken to fight back. I sat in Henry's chair, the one by the window where he used to read every evening, and closed my eyes. "I need you," I whispered to the empty room. "I don't know how to do this alone." But he was not there to answer. So I would have to figure it out myself. 4 days after the assessor's visit, I was upstairs folding laundry when I heard the front door open. Not a knock, just the sound of the door swinging wide, footsteps in the hallway, heels clicking on hardwood. My heart jumped. For a second, I thought maybe it was Henry, that this whole nightmare had been some terrible dream and he was home, calling out to ask what was for dinner. But it was not Henry. "Maggie?" Caroline's voice echoed up the stairs. "Are you home?" I came down slowly, carrying the laundry basket. She was standing in the living room, purse on her shoulder, looking around like she was inspecting something she had just purchased. "The door was locked," I said. She held up a key. "Eric gave me his spare. I figured it would be easier since I'm here so often." She said it so casually, like having a key to my house was the most natural thing in the world. "I didn't ask you to come by today," I said. "I know." She set her purse down on the coffee table. "But we need to have a serious conversation, and I didn't want to do it over the phone." Something about her tone had changed. The fake sweetness was gone. This was different, harder. Eric appeared in the doorway behind her, and I felt a small wave of relief. At least I was not alone with her. But when I looked at his face, the relief faded. He looked exhausted, defeated. "What's this about?" I asked. Caroline walked to the window, looking out at the backyard. "You need to start packing," she said simply. "It's time to move on with your life." The words hit me like a slap. "Excuse me?" She turned around and her expression was calm, too calm. "Maggie, I've been patient. We've been patient, but it's been over 2 months now, and you're still acting like nothing is changing. The transfer is happening. The paperwork is filed. You can't stay here forever." "This is my home," I said, my voice shaking. "It was your home," she corrected. "But Henry made other arrangements, and honestly, it's not healthy for you to stay here surrounded by all these memories. You need a fresh start." I looked at Eric, waiting for him to say something. Anything. But he just stood there, staring at the floor. "Eric?" I said. He finally looked up, and the guilt in his eyes was overwhelming. "Mom, maybe Caroline's right. Maybe it would be good for you to live somewhere smaller. Somewhere with less upkeep." I felt something crack inside my chest. "You think I should leave?" I asked him. "I think you deserve to be happy," he said quietly. "In this house? It's just full of sadness right now." Caroline stepped closer to me, her voice softening just slightly. "We're not trying to hurt you, we're trying to help. There are beautiful senior living communities nearby. Places where you'd have people around you, activities, support. You wouldn't be so isolated." "I don't want a senior living community," I said. "I want my home." "But this house isn't part of your future," Caroline said, and there was an edge to her voice now, something sharp underneath the sympathy. "I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, but you need to accept reality." "What reality?" I asked. "That my husband supposedly signed papers I never saw, that he made plans he never mentioned to me, that he would give away the home we built together without even discussing it?" Caroline's jaw tightened. He felt guilty. "Guilty about what?" "About leaving Eric out of his estate," she said quickly. "You know how he was. He always worried about being fair." "When did he tell you this?" I asked. She blinked. "What?" "When did Henry tell you he felt guilty? When did he explain this plan to you?" "Last year," she said without hesitating. "He mentioned it when we came over for dinner. He felt bad that everything was going to you and Eric would get nothing." The room went silent. Because Caroline had just made a mistake. "Last year?" I repeated slowly. "Yes, he brought it up casually, but I could tell it was bothering him." I set the laundry basket down carefully. "Caroline, you and Eric didn't come over for dinner last year." Her expression flickered, just for a second. "Yes, we did," she insisted. "It was summer, we had chicken on the grill." "No," I said, my voice getting stronger. "You didn't. Because last summer, we had a fight. You got upset about something I said, and you stopped speaking to us for 3 months. Eric barely called. You certainly didn't come over for dinner." Eric's head snapped up. He was staring at Caroline now. "Mom's right," he said slowly. "We didn't see them last summer. You were mad about the birthday thing." Caroline's face flushed. "Well, maybe it was the year before." "The year before that, Henry was recovering from knee surgery," I said. "We weren't having anyone over. He could barely walk." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Opened it again. I might be mixing up the timing, but the conversation happened. "Did it?" I asked. "Or are you making this up as you go?" "I'm not making anything up," she snapped. Your husband told us he wanted Eric to have the house. Maybe you weren't there for the conversation. Maybe he didn't want to upset you. But it happened. Then why does the paperwork show dates when Henry was in the hospital? I asked. Why is one of the forms dated in October when he couldn't even hold a pen? Her eyes widened slightly. She had not expected me to notice that. I don't know what you're talking about, she said. Yes, you do. I took a step toward her. You've been lying since the day you walked in here with that folder, and I don't know why, but I'm going to find out. Caroline grabbed her purse, her composure cracking. You're being paranoid. Grief is making you see things that aren't there. Grief isn't making me see anything, I said. But it did make me vulnerable, and you took advantage of that. Eric, we're leaving, she said sharply, but Eric did not move. Did Dad really sign those papers? He asked her, his voice barely above a whisper. Of course he did, Caroline said. Then why can't Mom remember any of this? Eric asked. Why are the dates wrong? Why did you just lie about last summer? I didn't lie, I got confused. Caroline. He said her name like a warning. Did Dad sign those papers or not? She stared at him, and for the first time since this whole thing started, I saw something in her face that looked like fear. We need to go, she said again. Answer the question, Eric said. But she did not answer. She just walked out, her heels clicking fast across the floor, the door slamming behind her. Eric stood frozen in the middle of the living room, staring at the space where his wife had just been. I'm sorry, he whispered. Mom, I'm so sorry. Eric, I need you to be honest with me, I said gently. Do you believe her? He looked at me, and his eyes were full of tears. I don't know, he said. I don't know what to believe anymore. After he left, I sat down at the kitchen table and pulled out my journal, wrote down everything Caroline had said, every contradiction, every lie. She was unraveling, getting careless, and the more pressure I applied, the more mistakes she made. I did not need assumptions anymore. I needed truth. And I knew exactly who could give it to me. James Abbott finally called on a Monday morning. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my second cup of coffee, staring at the journal where I had written every detail, every contradiction, every suspicious moment. My notes had grown from a few pages to dozens, dates that did not line up, conversations that never happened, timeline inconsistencies. Caroline could not explain. When the phone rang and I saw his office number, my hands started shaking before I even answered. Maggie. His voice was warm, familiar. I'm so sorry I haven't been able to call sooner. I just got back into town last night. My assistant said you needed to speak with me urgently. James, I need you to come to the house, I said. As soon as possible, please. There was a pause. Is everything all right? No, I said quietly. Nothing is all right. He arrived 2 hours later, carrying the same brown leather briefcase he had been using for as long as I could remember. James was in his 70s now, silver-haired, with kind eyes that had seen too many family disputes over the years. He had handled our wills when Eric was born, had helped us refinance the house, had been there for every major financial decision Henry and I ever made. If anyone knew the truth, it was James. I made him tea and we sat at the kitchen table. The same table where Caroline had spread those papers. The same table where she had told me the house no longer belonged to me. Tell me what's going on, James said gently. So I did. I told him everything. About Caroline showing up with the folder, about the supposed transfer papers, about the signature that looked wrong, about the dates that did not match, about the property assessor and the contractors and the constant pressure to move out. James listened without interrupting, his expression growing more serious with every detail. When I finished, he said simply, "Show me the papers." I brought him the box Caroline had left. He pulled out the documents one by one, examining each page carefully. His reading glasses perched on the end of his nose. His finger traced the lines of text. Every few seconds he would pause, frown, flip back to a previous page. The silence stretched on forever. Finally, he set the papers down and looked at me. "These are not real," he said quietly. The words took a moment to sink in. "What?" "These documents," he tapped the stack with one finger, "are not legitimate. The signature is not your husband's. I've seen Henry's signature hundreds of times, and this is not it. Someone attempted to forge it, but they didn't get it quite right." My chest tightened. "Are you sure?" "Positive," He picked up one of the forms. And this transfer request? This form hasn't been used in over a decade. We switched to a new system years ago. Anyone filing a legitimate transfer would have used the current forms. But Caroline said you gave these to her, I said. She said you were handling everything. James's face darkened. I gave her nothing. I haven't spoken to Caroline since Henry's funeral, and even then it was just condolences. No legal discussion whatsoever. The relief that washed over me was so strong I thought I might cry. But underneath it was something else. Something hotter. Anger. So she's been lying, I said. Yes, James said simply. She's been lying. He pulled another folder from his briefcase, this one thicker, more official looking. This is the real will, the one Henry and I drafted together 5 years ago and updated 2 years ago when he added a few personal notes. He opened it and spread the pages across the table. According to this will, verified and notarized, everything goes to you. The house, the accounts, the investments, all of it. Henry was very clear about his wishes. I stared at the pages. At Henry's real signature at the bottom. The loops were right. The slant was right. This was him. Then James pulled out a folded piece of paper from inside the will. He asked me to include this, he said softly. He wrote it himself. I took the paper with trembling hands and unfolded it. It was Henry's handwriting. Messy and tilted the way it always was. Blue ink on lined paper. It said, for Maggie. Because she gave me my whole life. This house is yours. The memories are yours. Everything we built is yours. Never let anyone make you feel like you don't belong here. I love you forever, Henry. I could not breathe. The tears came so fast I could not stop them. I pressed the note to my chest and sobbed. All the grief I had been holding back, all the fear, all the confusion, it poured out of me in waves. James waited patiently, sipping his tea, giving me space to feel everything. When I finally composed myself, I wiped my eyes and looked at him. What do I do? He leaned back in his chair, thinking carefully. Legally, you have options. We could pursue fraud charges, forgery, harassment, but that would mean getting the police involved, going to court, making this very public and very messy. I don't care about messy, I said. I care about the truth. I know you do. He paused. But I've handled situations like this before, and I've learned something important. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people talk themselves into a corner. What do you mean? Caroline has been confident because she thinks you're too grief-stricken to question her, he explained. She thinks you're vulnerable and alone, but you're not. You have me. You have the real will. You have evidence of her lies. So what do? I asked again. You stay calm, he said. You document everything she says and does, every visit, every phone call, every contradiction. And when she finally commits fully to her story, when she's so confident that she announces it publicly, that's when you present the truth. You want me to wait? I want you to be strategic. He tapped the forged documents. Right now, she's making mistakes, getting careless. The more confident she becomes, the bigger those mistakes will be. And when she's at her most vulnerable, when she thinks she's won, that's when you strike. I thought about it. About Caroline walking through my house like she owned it. About her telling family members the house was theirs. About her scheduling contractors and assessors without permission. She was building her own trap. How long do I wait? I asked. James smiled slightly. Not long. Something tells me Caroline is going to push this to a head very soon, and when she does, you'll be ready. He stood up, gathering the real will and placing it back in his briefcase. I'm keeping this safe in my office, and I'm going to prepare a statement verifying these forged documents. When you need it, it will be ready. Thank you, I whispered. He squeezed my shoulder on his way out. Henry was my friend for 30 years. I'm not going to let anyone steal what he left for you. After he left, I sat alone in the quiet kitchen. The sun was streaming through the windows, hitting the table just the way Henry loved. For the first time since he died, I felt like I could breathe. The grief was still there, heavy and constant, but now something else lived beside it. Power. Because I was not a victim anymore. I was a widow with proof, with truth, with a plan, and Caroline had no idea what was coming. After James left, something inside me shifted. I was not the grieving widow stumbling through fog anymore. I was awake, alert, and I had a plan. James was right. Caroline was making mistakes, small ones at first, but they were growing. And the more confident she became, the more careless she got. So I decided to give her exactly what she wanted. I stopped arguing, stopped questioning. When she called, I answered politely. When she visited, I let her walk through the house without protest. When she made suggestions about moving, I just nodded vaguely and changed the subject. I let her think she had won. And while she celebrated her imaginary victory, I documented everything. The first sign that Caroline was getting bolder came 3 days after James's visit. My niece called, confused and upset. "Aunt Maggie, I just got off the phone with Caroline," she said. "She told me you're moving to a senior community and selling the house. Is that true?" "No," I said calmly, "it's not." She made it sound like it was already decided. She even asked if I wanted any of the furniture before she got rid of it. My hand tightened around the phone. "What else did she say?" "She said the house is going to her and Eric, that Henry arranged it before he died, that you agreed it was for the best." My niece paused. "Maggie, this doesn't sound right." "It's not right," I said, "but don't worry, I'm handling it." After we hung up, I added the conversation to my journal. Caroline was telling people the house was hers, not almost hers, not potentially hers, hers. 2 days later, Eric called. "Mom, Caroline wants to come by this weekend to take measurements." "Measurements for what?" He sighed. "For renovations. She's talking about knocking down the wall between the kitchen and dining room, updating the bathrooms, redoing the floors. My kitchen, the one Henry and I had remodeled together 10 years ago. The dining room where we hosted every holiday for nearly 5 decades. She wants to renovate my house?" I asked. "She's just planning ahead," Eric said weakly. "You know how she is. She likes to be prepared." Prepared, as if the house was already empty, as if I was already gone. "Let her come," I said. Eric sounded surprised. "Really? Really? Tell her Saturday afternoon is fine," because I wanted to see exactly how far she would go. Saturday came, and Caroline arrived with a contractor, an actual contractor with a clipboard and a tape measure, ready to discuss structural changes. I watched from the living room as they walked through my home, Caroline pointing at walls and cabinets and fixtures, talking about what needed to go, what could stay, what would look better if they just ripped it all out and started fresh. "The kitchen is so dated," she said, running her hand along the counter Henry had installed. "We'll gut the whole thing. New cabinets, new appliances, maybe an island here in the center." The contractor took notes. "And upstairs," Caroline continued as they climbed the stairs, "we'll turn the master bedroom into a suite. Bigger closet, updated bathroom, maybe a sitting area by the window." The master bedroom. The room where Henry died, where I still slept every night, surrounded by his things. I followed them quietly, my phone in my pocket, recording every word. When they came back downstairs, the contractor handed Caroline an estimate. "This is just preliminary," he said. "But if you want to move forward, we can start as early as next month." "Perfect," Caroline said. "I'll be in touch." After they left, I sat on the couch and listened to the recording. Every careless word, every confident claim, every plan she made for a house that did not belong to her. Evidence. The following week, Caroline invited family over for dinner at her house. My cousin mentioned it casually when she called to check on me. "Caroline said you couldn't make it because you weren't feeling well," she said. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said. "I didn't know there was a dinner." "Oh. Well, it was nice. She talked a lot about the house, about all the changes they're planning." "What kind of changes?" My cousin hesitated. "Honestly, Maggie, it felt strange. She was talking like the house was already hers, showing people photos on her phone of renovation ideas. She even had paint samples." "Paint samples? For my walls?" "Did Eric say anything?" I asked. "He looked uncomfortable the whole time," she said, "like he wanted to be anywhere else." I added that to the journal too. Then, 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, Caroline brought the kids by, my grandchildren. Sweet, innocent kids who had no idea they were being used as pawns. "Grandma," my youngest grandson ran up and hugged me. "Mom says we get to pick our rooms in your house." My heart sank. "Pick your rooms?" I asked. "Yeah." He was so excited. "I want the one with the window seat, and Emma wants the one with the blue walls." I looked at Caroline, who was smiling like this was the most natural thing in the world. "I thought it would be fun for them to feel involved," she said sweetly. "They're so excited about living here. Living here. In my house." while I was still alive and breathing and standing right in front of them. "That sounds lovely," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Why don't you kids go play in the yard while I talk to your mom?" After they ran outside, I turned to Caroline. "What are you doing?" "I'm helping them adjust," she said. "This is going to be their home soon. They should feel comfortable here." "Soon," I repeated. "When exactly is soon?" She shrugged. "After the holidays. We thought it would be easier to wait until after Thanksgiving and Christmas. Give you time to find a place and move your things." "Give me time?" As if she was doing me a favor. "And you've told everyone this is happening," I said. "Of course. It's not a secret, Maggie. The paperwork is filed. The transfer is in process. Everyone knows." She said it so confidently, so completely sure of herself, and that was exactly what I needed. "You're right," I said quietly. "Everyone should know." Her smile widened. "I'm glad you're finally accepting this. It's better for everyone." After she left with the kids, I sat at the kitchen table and organized everything I had collected. The recordings, the journal entries, the assessor's business card with the date written on the back, the contractor's estimate, the list of family members Caroline had told. She had built her story so carefully, told so many people, made so many plans, and she had no idea that every confident claim was another piece of evidence against her. James called that evening. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "She's telling everyone the house is hers," I said. "She brought contractors, she's planning renovations. She even had my grandchildren pick their rooms." "Good," he said. "Good?" "She's committing," he explained. "The more public she makes this, the harder she'll fall when the truth comes out." "When are you planning to tell her?" "Thanksgiving," I said. "She'll be here with the whole family. I want everyone to hear it at once." James was quiet for a moment. "That's bold." "She was bold first," I said. "She announced her lie at my table. I'll announce the truth at the same one." "Do you want me there?" he asked. "Yes," I said, "just in case." Over the next 2 weeks, I prepared, not just emotionally, but practically. I made copies of everything. The real will, James's statement about the forged documents, the assessor's report with Caroline's name on it, every recording, every note, every piece of evidence. I also prepared Thanksgiving dinner, Henry's favorite recipes, the turkey he always carved, the stuffing he loved, the pies he requested every year, because this meal was not just about revenge. It was about honoring the man who built this house, who loved this family, who trusted me to protect what we made together. And that is exactly what I was going to do. The night before Thanksgiving, I could not sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about what would happen the next day, about Caroline's face when she realized her plan had failed, about Eric finally seeing the truth, about my grandchildren understanding that some people lie, even family. Part of me felt guilty, felt like maybe I should have handled this privately, away from the children, away from the holiday table. But Caroline made this public. She announced it at Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving was where it would end. I got up and walked downstairs through the quiet house, touching the walls and the furniture and the memories. "I'm ready, Henry," I whispered to the darkness. "I hope you're proud of me." And somewhere, in the silence, I felt like he was. Thanksgiving morning came quiet and gray. I woke up before sunrise, the way I always did on holidays. For 47 years, Henry and I had this routine. He would start the coffee while I prepped the turkey. We would work side by side in the kitchen, him humming old songs, me reminding him not to eat all the cranberry sauce before dinner. This year, the kitchen was silent, except for my own movements. I pulled the turkey from the refrigerator, the same size Henry always insisted on. Too big for the number of people coming. But he said leftovers were the best part. I seasoned it the way he liked, with rosemary and thyme from the garden he planted. My hands moved through the familiar motions, chopping vegetables, mixing stuffing, rolling out pie crust. But my mind was somewhere else entirely. Today was the day. By tonight, everyone would know the truth. Caroline's lies would be exposed. The house would be safe. And maybe, just maybe, I could finally breathe again. But first, I had to get through the meal. I set the table with our good china, the set we only used for special occasions. Polished the silverware Henry's mother had given us as a wedding gift. Folded the cloth napkins, pressing each crease sharp and clean. Everything had to be perfect. Because this was not just about proving Caroline wrong. This was about honoring Henry. About showing that the home he built, the traditions he loved, the family he cherished, they were still here. Still strong, still worth fighting for. Around 10 in the morning, my niece arrived early to help. "The house smells amazing," she said, giving me a long hug. "Just like always." We worked together in comfortable silence for a while, her mashing potatoes while I basted the turkey. She knew something was wrong. Had known for weeks, but she did not push, just stayed close, offering quiet support. "Are you okay?" she finally asked. "I will be," I said. "After today." She looked at me carefully. "What's happening today?" "The truth," I said simply. She did not ask anything else, just squeezed my hand and went back to the potatoes. By noon, the turkey was golden and the side dishes were ready. The house looked beautiful, warm and welcoming, just the way Henry would have wanted. I went upstairs to change, choosing a soft blue sweater Henry always said brought out my eyes. And in the pocket, I carefully placed a folded envelope. Inside was a copy of the real will, James's statement, and a printed summary of every lie Caroline had told. The weight of it in my pocket felt like armor. When I came back downstairs, James was pulling into the driveway. I met him at the door. "You came early," I said. "I'll wait in my car until you need me," he said. "But I wanted to be close, just in case." "Thank you." He handed me his business card. "If things get heated, if she tries to leave before you've said everything you need to say, call me. I'll come in and make it official." I tucked the card into my other pocket. "Are you nervous?" he asked. "Terrified," I admitted. "But also ready." He smiled gently. "Henry would be proud of you." After he left, I stood in the living room looking at everything I had prepared. The table set for 11, the food warming in the kitchen, the fire crackling softly in the fireplace. This was my home, my life, my history, and I was not giving it up. The first guests started arriving around 1, my cousin and her husband, a few neighbors Henry had been close with. My niece's children, running through the house with the kind of energy only kids have. Everyone hugged me, told me how good everything looked, asked how I was holding up. I smiled and thanked them and tried not to think about what was coming. Then, at exactly 2 o'clock, Caroline's car pulled up. I watched through the window as she got out, wearing a dress that looked too expensive for a family dinner. Eric followed, helping the kids out of the back seat. Even from a distance, I could see the tension in his shoulders. Caroline walked up the front path like she owned it. Not like a guest. Like someone surveying property that already belonged to them. When I opened the door, she smiled that practiced smile. "Happy Thanksgiving, Maggie," she said, kissing my cheek. "Everything looks lovely." The kids ran past her, already looking for their cousins. Eric hugged me, and I felt him trembling slightly. "Are you all right?" I whispered. "I don't know," he whispered back. Caroline walked through the house, greeting people, complimenting the decorations. But I noticed the way her eyes moved. Calculating, assessing. Like she was already planning where her furniture would go. She stopped in the living room, running her hand along the mantel. "This room would look so much better with lighter paint," she said to no one in particular. My niece shot me a look. I shook my head slightly. Not yet. By 2:30, everyone was gathered. The kids were playing in the den. The adults were in the living room, making small talk, sipping drinks, waiting for dinner to be ready. Caroline held court in the center of the room, talking about holiday plans, about the kids' school activities, about everything except the elephant in the room. But I saw the way she kept glancing at me, wondering if I was going to make a scene, wondering if I had finally accepted defeat. Let her wonder. At 3 o'clock I announced dinner was ready. Everyone filed into the dining room, finding their seats, admiring the spread. The turkey sat golden in the center, surrounded by all of Henry's favorites. Mashed potatoes with too much butter. Green bean casserole with the crispy onions on top. Cranberry sauce from a can because that was the only kind he liked. I had saved his seat at the head of the table. Left it empty. Because even though he was gone, this was still his home. His family. His holiday. Caroline sat to my right, Eric beside her. The kids scattered around the table, excited and hungry. My niece sat to my left, close enough to reach if I needed her. I asked my cousin to say grace, and we all bowed our heads. "We're thankful for family," he said, "for this home, for the memories we've made here and the ones we'll continue to make. And we remember Henry, who brought us all together. Several people whispered amen. Then we began passing dishes. The normal rhythm of a family meal. Forks clinking against plates, conversations starting and stopping, laughter from the kids' end of the table. For a few minutes it felt almost normal, but I could feel the tension underneath. Eric barely eating, just moving food around his plate. Caroline watching me, waiting for something. My niece's hand resting near mine, ready to offer support. And in my sweater pocket, the envelope with the truth. I took a bite of turkey, trying to taste it, trying to appreciate all the work I had put into this meal, but my heart was pounding too hard. Soon, very soon, Caroline set her fork down, and the sound was loud in the momentary quiet. I knew that sound, had been expecting it. This was it, the moment I had been preparing for, the moment where everything would change. I glanced toward the window, where I knew James was waiting in his car, ready. My hand moved to my pocket, feeling the envelope, the proof, the truth. By the time we sat at the table, everything was ready. The food, the family, the evidence, and me. I was ready. Everyone had taken their first bites when Caroline's fork clinked against her plate. The sound cut through the conversation like a knife through silence. Sharp, deliberate, impossible to ignore. The kids kept talking for a moment, caught up in their own world. But the adults stopped, forks hovering mid-air. Glasses paused before lips. Everyone turned toward Caroline. She straightened her back slowly, like someone preparing to make an important announcement. Smoothed her napkin across her lap with careful precision. Then she looked directly at me, and her lips curved into something that was not quite a smile. My heart started pounding, but I kept my face neutral. Calm. I had been waiting for this moment for weeks. This was it. I think, Caroline said, her voice steady and clear, it's time everyone knew the truth about what's happening with this house. The table went completely silent. Even the kids stopped talking. My niece's hand found mine under the table, squeezing tight. Caroline tilted her head slightly, still looking at me. Maggie has been through so much these past few months. Losing Henry, dealing with all the paperwork, trying to manage this big house all alone. It's been overwhelming for her. She said it with such sympathy, such false concern. And that's why, she continued, her voice getting stronger, Henry made arrangements before he passed, to make things easier, to protect everyone. Eric set his knife down slowly, his face pale. Caroline, he whispered, maybe this isn't the time. It's exactly the time, she said. Everyone's here. Everyone should know. My cousin leaned forward. Know what? Caroline took a breath, and I could see the satisfaction in her eyes. This was her moment. The announcement she had been building toward for months. As of yesterday, she said clearly, the house no longer belongs to Maggie. The words hung in the air like smoke. Someone gasped. I think it was one of my neighbors. My niece's grip on my hand tightened so hard it hurt. What? My cousin said. Caroline did not break eye contact with me. Henry signed it over to us, to Eric and me, before he died. It was his final wish. That's not true, my niece said immediately. It is true, Caroline said, turning to face her. The paperwork is filed. The transfer is in process. Henry wanted his son to have the family home. Eric was staring at his plate, looking like he wanted to disappear into the floor. And I'm sorry if this is shocking, Caroline continued, addressing the whole table now. But Maggie knew this was coming. We've been discussing it for months. She's had time to prepare. Lies. Every word was a lie. The reality is, Caroline said, her voice taking on an edge, Maggie gets nothing. The house belongs to us now. My grandson, sitting 3 seats away, looked confused. But Grandma lives here. Not for much longer, Caroline said softly. She'll be moving to a nice place where she'll have people to take care of her. It's what's best. The table erupted. You can't be serious, my cousin said. This is her home, my niece added, her voice shaking with anger. Henry would never, my neighbor started. But Caroline talked over them all. Henry did. He signed the papers. He made the choice. And now it's done. She said it with such finality, such absolute confidence. I felt my hands go cold, not from fear this time, from control, from the knowledge that I was about to dismantle everything she had just said. I set my fork down gently beside my plate. The sound was soft, but somehow everyone noticed. The arguing stopped. All eyes turned to me. I folded my napkin carefully, placed it on the table, and looked directly at Caroline. "Should I tell them?" I said, my voice quiet but clear as crystal. "Or will you?" Her smile froze, just froze, right there on her face, like someone had pressed pause on her entire existence. The confidence drained from her eyes, replaced by something else, something that looked like the first flutter of panic. "Tell them what?" she said, but her voice had lost its strength. "Mom," Eric whispered from across the table. "Please don't." His voice was cracking, desperate, like he knew exactly what was coming and could not bear to hear it. But I kept my eyes on Caroline. "Tell them what?" she repeated, louder now. Defensive. "What are you talking about?" The entire table was frozen, my cousin staring wide-eyed, my niece gripping my hand so tight I could feel her pulse. The kids looking between the adults, sensing something important was happening, but not understanding what. I did not answer right away, just held Caroline's gaze. Let the silence stretch, let her feel the weight of what was coming. Her hands started moving, fidgeting with her napkin, a crack in her perfect composure. "Maggie," she said, trying to sound calm but failing. "If you have something to say, just say it." "All right," I said softly. I reached into my sweater pocket and pulled out the envelope, the one I had been carrying all day, the one that held the truth. The room inhaled all at once. Like everyone drew breath at the exact same moment. I placed the envelope on the table between us, did not open it yet, just let it sit there, white and official looking, while Caroline stared at it like it was a bomb. "What is that?" she asked, and for the first time I heard real fear in her voice. "This," I said calmly, "is the real will, with the real signature, verified by the attorney who drafted it 20 years ago." Her face went pale. "And this," I continued, tapping the envelope, "is a written statement from James Abbott, our family lawyer, confirming that the documents you've been showing people are not genuine." Eric covered his face with both hands. Caroline's mouth opened, but no words came out. "And this," I said, pulling out another paper, "is the business card from the property assessor you sent to my house, with notes documenting that you hired him without my knowledge or consent." Her breathing got faster, shallower. "You're lying," she finally managed to say. "No," I said quietly, "you're lying, and you've been lying since the day Henry died." The table stayed silent except for Caroline's breathing and the sound of my voice. "You forged documents. You told my family this house belonged to you. You brought contractors to plan renovations. You had my grandchildren pick their rooms. You told everyone I was moving out." Each sentence landed like a stone, and you did it all while I was grieving, while I was vulnerable, while you thought I was too heartbroken to fight back. Caroline's hands were shaking now. "That's not, I didn't." "Yes," I said, "you did." I looked around the table at my family, at the shocked faces, at Eric crying quietly into his hands, at my grandchildren, confused and scared, and everyone here deserves to know the truth. I opened the envelope slowly, deliberately, giving Caroline time to realize just how wrong she had been. The first document I pulled out was the real will. Thick, official, with the law office letterhead at the top. I slid it across the table toward the center where everyone could see it. "This is the will Henry and I created together 5 years ago," I said. "Updated 2 years ago with our attorney, James Abbott. It clearly states that everything goes to me. The house, the accounts, the investments, all of it." My cousin leaned forward to look. "May I?" "Please," I said. He picked it up carefully, reading the first page, then flipping through. His eyes moved quickly over the legal language, then he looked at Caroline. "This is notarized," he said, "signed by witnesses, dated 2 years ago." Caroline's hands gripped the edge of the table. That's not the updated version." "Yes," I said calmly, "it is." I pulled out the second document. "This is James Abbott's statement, written and signed by him 3 weeks ago, confirming that he drafted this will and never created any transfer documents giving the house to Eric." I slid it toward my niece. She read it quickly, her eyes filling with tears. "The documents Caroline has been showing people," I continued, "are forgeries. The signature is not Henry's. The forms are outdated, not used in over a decade, and the dates don't match reality." "You can't prove that," Caroline said, but her voice was weak now. "I can," I said. I pulled out a printed comparison I had made. Henry's real signature from our mortgage papers beside the forged one from Caroline's documents. "Look at the difference. The H is wrong. The Y slants the wrong direction. The pressure of the pen is inconsistent. My neighbor, who worked in a bank, picked it up. These are definitely different signatures, she said quietly. Caroline stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loud against the floor. This is ridiculous. You're all believing her lies. Sit down, Caroline, Eric said. Everyone turned to look at him. His face was wet with tears, but his voice was steady. Sit down, he said again. She stared at him. Eric, you know the truth. Tell them. I know you lied to me, he said. I know you showed me papers I never questioned because you're my wife and I trusted you. I didn't lie, she insisted. Yes, you did. His voice broke. You lied about last summer, you lied about the dates, and now you're lying about this. I pulled out another paper. This is the property assessor's card. I called him yesterday. He confirmed that Caroline hired him, told him the house was being transferred, and asked for a valuation for sale purposes. I set it on the table. And this, I continued, pulling out my phone, is a recording of Caroline and a contractor discussing renovations to my kitchen. Renovations I never approved or agreed to. I pressed play. Caroline's voice filled the room, confident and clear, talking about gutting my kitchen, changing the floors, knocking down walls. The room was so silent I could hear people breathing. When the recording ended, I looked at Caroline. You were so confident, so sure you had won. You told family members. You brought contractors. You had my grandchildren pick their rooms in a house that was never going to be yours. I was trying to help you, Caroline said desperately. You were lost, confused, grieving. I was trying to make things easier. By stealing my home? It wasn't stealing. Henry wanted Eric to have it. No, I said firmly, he didn't. I reached into the envelope one more time and pulled out the folded piece of paper. Henry's note. The one he had tucked inside the will. My hands shook as I unfolded it. Henry wrote this himself, I said, my voice cracking. In his own handwriting. James kept it with the will. I began to read aloud. For Maggie. Because she gave me my whole life. This house is yours. The memories are yours. Everything we built is yours. Never let anyone make you feel like you don't belong here. I love you forever, Henry. By the time I finished, I was crying. So was my niece. My cousin had his head bowed. Even Eric was sobbing openly. Caroline stood frozen, all color drained from her face. He didn't forget me, I said, looking directly at her. He didn't sign the house away. He didn't make secret plans. He loved me, and he made sure I would be protected. The weight of those words settled over the room. You tried to take everything from me while I was at my weakest, I said. You forged documents, you manipulated my son, you lied to my family, and you did it all because you thought grief made me powerless. Caroline's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Well, I'm not powerless, I said. And this house stays mine. There was a knock at the door. Perfect timing. My niece went to answer it, and moments later, James Abbott walked into the dining room. He was wearing a suit, carrying his briefcase, looking every bit the professional attorney. Good afternoon, he said calmly. I apologize for interrupting your meal. Caroline's eyes went wide. What is he doing here? I invited him, I said, just in case we needed legal clarity. James set his briefcase on the side table and pulled out a folder. I've been the legal representative for Maggie and Henry for over 20 years. I can confirm everything Maggie has stated today is accurate. The will is legitimate. The forged documents are not. And if anyone wishes to challenge this in court, I have extensive documentation ready to present. He looked directly at Caroline. Additionally, he continued, his voice cool and professional, if you continue pursuing this fraudulent claim, we will move forward with formal charges. Forgery is a crime, so is harassment, so is attempting to defraud a widow of her property. Caroline grabbed her purse from the back of her chair. This is insane. You're all insane. Caroline, Eric stood up. Stop. Don't you dare take her side, she snapped at him. I'm not taking sides, he said. I'm accepting the truth. You lied. To me. To everyone. You tried to steal from my mother. I was doing this for us, she said desperately. For our family. For our future. No, Eric said quietly. You were doing it for yourself. She stared at him like he had slapped her. I think you should leave, he said. I'm your wife. And she's my mother. The mother who would never lie to me, never manipulate me, never try to steal from someone while they're grieving. Caroline looked around the table, searching for support. but everyone was looking at her with expressions ranging from shock to disgust to pity. "You'll regret this," she said to me. "All of you will regret this. The only person with regrets here is you," James said calmly, "because you gambled on grief making someone weak, and you lost." Caroline grabbed her coat and stormed toward the door. She paused in the doorway, looking back one more time. But no one said anything. No one stopped her. No one defended her. She left, and the door slammed behind her so hard the windows rattled. The room stayed silent for a long moment. Then my grandson, bless his innocent heart, said, "Does this mean we're not moving here?" Despite everything, despite the tears and the tension and the trauma, someone laughed. Then someone else. And suddenly the whole table was laughing, that kind of relieved, exhausted laughter that comes after something terrible almost happens but doesn't. Eric came around the table and knelt beside my chair. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have questioned her from the start. I should have protected you." I cupped his face in my hands. "You're here now, that's what matters. I love you," he whispered. "I love you too, sweetheart." James packed up his briefcase. "I'll leave you all to your dinner. Maggie, if you need anything, call me anytime." "Thank you, James, for everything." After he left, we all just sat there for a moment, processing what had just happened. Then my niece said, "The turkey's probably cold." "I'll heat it up," I said. "No." My cousin stood. "You sit. We'll handle it." And just like that, my family surrounded me, reheating food, refilling glasses, bringing out fresh plates, taking care of me the way I had taken care of them for so many years. Eric stayed close, helping where he could, apologizing every few minutes until I finally told him to stop. "It's over," I said. "That's all that matters." When we finally sat down to eat again, the mood was different, lighter. The tension that had been suffocating us all was gone. We ate Henry's favorite meal in Henry's favorite house, surrounded by the family he loved, and for the first time since he died, I felt him there with us. Not gone, just quiet, watching over us the way he always did. Thanksgiving went on without Caroline, and honestly, it was better that way. The days after Thanksgiving moved differently. Slower, quieter, but in a good way this time. The kind of quiet that feels like healing instead of emptiness. Eric called every morning, sometimes just to say hello, sometimes to apologize again, even though I kept telling him he did not need to. Sometimes just to sit on the phone in silence while we both drank our coffee, him at his kitchen table, me at mine. "I should have seen it," he said one morning. About a week after Thanksgiving. All the signs were there. The way she pushed, the way she talked about the house like it was already hers. I just didn't want to believe my wife would do that. "You loved her," I said gently. "Love makes us trust when maybe we shouldn't." "I still love her," he admitted, "but I don't know if I can forgive her." I understood that. Love and trust are not the same thing. You can still care about someone and know they are not good for you. "What matters now," I said, "is that you're here, that we're okay." "Are we?" he asked. "Are we really okay?" I looked around my kitchen. At the morning light coming through the windows, Henry always said we're positioned perfectly. At the coffee maker he bought me for our anniversary. At the table where we had shared thousands of meals. "Yes," I said. "We're okay." Eric started coming by on weekends. Just him, without Caroline. He would help with things around the house. Fixing a loose board on the porch. Cleaning out the gutters. Small tasks Henry used to do. One Saturday afternoon, we were sitting on the back porch drinking lemonade when he said, "I'm thinking about separating from her." I did not say anything right away. Just let him talk. "I can't trust her anymore," he continued. "Every time she says something, I wonder if it's true or if she's manipulating me. That's no way to live." "No," I agreed. "It's not. The kids keep asking about her," he said, "about why we're not all together anymore. I don't know what to tell them." "Tell them the truth," I said, "in a way they can understand. That sometimes adults make mistakes, big ones, and sometimes those mistakes change things." He nodded slowly. "They love you, you know. They were so upset when they thought you were leaving this house." "I'm not going anywhere," I said firmly. And I meant it. The house itself started feeling different too. Less like a museum of memories and more like a home again. I rearranged some furniture. Not because Caroline had suggested it, but because I wanted to. Packed away some of Henry's things that were too painful to look at every day. Not throwing them away, just storing them until I was ready. I started cooking again. Real meals, not just toast and tea. Invited my niece over for dinner, had my cousin and his wife stop by for coffee. Slowly filled the house with life again. The kids visited more often. My grandchildren, who had been so confused during Thanksgiving, now understood that Grandma's house was staying Grandma's house. They would run through the rooms, play in the yard, ask me to tell them stories about their grandfather. "Did Grandpa really build this porch himself?" my grandson asked one afternoon. "He did," I said. "Took him 3 weekends, and he hit his thumb with the hammer so many times I lost count." The boy laughed. "Was he good at building things?" "He was good at loving things," I said. "And when you love something enough, you learn how to take care of it." Caroline never came back to the house. Eric said she was staying with her sister, refusing to talk to him about anything except the kids. She had not apologized, had not admitted she was wrong. Just disappeared, her grand plan destroyed, her confidence shattered. Part of me felt bad for her. But only a small part, because what she tried to do was not just wrong. It was cruel. She saw a woman grieving and decided that made her weak, decided that made her an easy target. She learned the hard way that grief and weakness are not the same thing. James stopped by a few weeks after Thanksgiving with final paperwork. "Everything is secure," he said. "The house is yours, no question. I've filed copies of the real will with the county. If anyone ever questions it, the documentation is ironclad." "Thank you," I said. "For everything. For believing me. For helping me fight." "Henry was my friend," he said. "And you're a remarkable woman. I was honored to help." After he left, I walked through the house one more time, room by room, touching the walls, looking at the photographs, remembering. This house held 47 years of my life. Births and birthdays, holidays and heartaches. The day we brought Eric home from the hospital, the night Henry proposed by the fireplace, every anniversary, every Christmas morning, every ordinary Tuesday that felt extraordinary just because we were together. Caroline tried to take that from me, tried to erase my history, tried to push me out of my own story. But she failed. Because home is not just a building. It's not just walls and floors and a roof over your head. Home is the place where you belong, where your memories live, where the people you loved still exist in every corner, every photograph, every piece of furniture. Home is the place where you stand your ground when someone tries to take it from you. One morning in early December, I woke up before sunrise, made coffee, sat in Henry's chair by the window and watched the sun come up over the garden he planted. And for the first time since he died, I felt him there with me. Not gone, just different. Existing in the warmth of the morning light, in the smell of coffee, in the quiet peace of a house that was finally truly mine again. "I did it," I whispered to the empty room. "I protected what we built, just like you knew I would." The house settled around me, creaking softly the way old houses do, and it felt like an answer. Like Henry saying, "I know. I'm proud of you." I sat there until my coffee went cold, watching the world wake up outside my window. This house was not just wood and walls, it was love. It was history. It was the life Henry and I built from nothing, one day at a time, one choice at a time, one moment of staying together at a time. And nobody, not Caroline, not anyone, could ever take that away. Because home is not just a place, it is the peace you protect, the ground you refuse to give up, the memories you fight for when someone tries to steal them. Henry used to say, "Home is where you breathe easy, Maggie." And finally, after months of holding my breath, after fighting for what was mine, after standing my ground when it would have been easier to walk away, I could breathe again. Easy. Free. Home. If my story resonated with you, if you felt every moment of this journey with me, please take a second to share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had to fight for something that was rightfully yours? Have you ever stood your ground when someone tried to push you out? I would love to hear your stories. And please, get that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you never miss another story. Because sometimes the most important battles are the ones we fight for the places and people we love. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And remember, you are stronger than you think. Even in your darkest moments, especially then.